What's up, lads? We're back again, but actually I am on my Todd this time. I'm going to do like an extended TikTok episode from all of the stories that were sent in that are too long for me to read out in the 3 minutes for TikTok. If you were on my live a few weeks ago, I read out a couple of these already, but there's new ones in here too. And at the end of this episode, I have a shocker of an Agony Orange query that I got in on Instagram during the week. If you've got any stories to send in to me, send them in to thedatingorange@gmail.com. Coming up over the next few podcast episodes, I have a few cool customers that you may have come across on TikTok already. So firstly, we have Scottish stand-up comedian James Gardner, who is absolutely gas, and he has given us his years of experience on Match.com, Singlefriend.com, and like Tinder and Bumble. And then we have Ireland's Strongest Woman 2023 and ex-Gogglebox Ireland star Sheila Naughton. She does be talking about, dating crack. She makes funny videos about like the type of men that you come across on Tinder and that kind of stuff. She'll be talking about her nightmare dates and just kind of trying to navigate the apps with fuck all hope. And we have the Two Girls from Daters Gonna Date podcast. This was set up at the start of COVID. You should definitely check them out. I was actually on that podcast back in October, maybe. And I was kind of only on the whole TikTok scene a couple of months. I didn't have a fucking clue what I was talking about. God bless those girls, they got me through it. Definitely check them out anyway. And then we also have dating strategist Kaylee Castle. She's the founder of She's Relatable, coming on with dating advice for anybody who is struggling. So yeah, lots planned now, but I'm also going to be putting in these types of TikToks where I just read out stories because this is what the people asked for. They asked for extended TikToks so they could listen to people's shitty stories when they're washing the dishes. And I'm giving the people what they want. If you listen to my last podcast episode, it was with comedian Justine Stafford, and I had kind of made a joke to people beforehand that the dubs and English people and basically anybody who wasn't from the country in Ireland was just going to think that we sounded the same. But we don't sound the fucking same because we're from two totally different counties. But when I was listening back to that podcast and editing it, I was like, oh, there's me. Oh, no, that's Justine. And then I'm like, oh, that's Justine. No, wait, that's me talking. Fucking hell, it was bamboozling. So many people said it to me as well that they didn't know who was talking. I did not think that was going to be a fucking issue. But here we are anyway. And now look at me. Friends with Justine. Never did I think that this was going to happen. There's my ma telling me that I should give up the TikTok and spend more time in the gym. But look at me now, Mom. Right, so we have the first story coming up. Here we go. This is the most bizarre experience I've had on a date. I wouldn't believe it actually happened, except that I have my post-date panicked voice notes to back it up. At the time of the occurrence, my approach to online dating involved very little pre-screening of my matches. It was more or less match, meet, rinse, repeat. There are so many guys who will flake on you after you've already spent ages texting them, so my strategy was more about efficiency and FaceTime, and it is effective. On Saturdays, I'd set up a date for breakfast, normally just coffee, a date for lunch, coffee or food, and a date for dinner, just food. And I did that for 7-ish Saturdays in a row. Crazy or genius, you tell me. I always offer to split the bill or pay for myself in case anybody immediately assumes I'm taking advantage. I was just lucky enough that most dates insisted on paying. For anyone thinking of using the same method, it is pretty handy as you only have to get dressed up or made up once for the day instead of 3 times. Anyway, this was a breakfast coffee date. We had exchanged maybe 20 messages before I asked him out for coffee. We were supposed to meet in Limerick City. I told him to meet me at the Gloria Jeans on Thomas Street, emphasising Thomas Street as there's another on Arthur's Quay. I arrived and waited outside for a bit, but he was 15 minutes late, so I headed in, texted him, getting my coffee now. He texted back, me too. That confused me as the only other person in line was an elderly gentleman. I texted him back, I don't see you. He responded, I'm at the till. Realising he'd gone to the wrong place and can't follow basic instructions, I paid and texted him to stay put at the other cafe and said that I'd meet him there. 3 minutes later, I arrived at the second cafe, already with coffee in hand. Went inside. He wasn't there. I went to the outside seating area. Not there either. Now I'm thinking he's only gone and walked back to the other cafe after I told him to stay put. And honestly, I wouldn't have put it past him. He seemed a bit scatterbrained. I sat down and tried ringing him. No answer. Texted him. No answer. I'm thinking he stood me up when out of nowhere this fella comes around the corner wearing grey shorts of sweatpants material, a hoodie and slides, and greets me. Don't get me wrong, the guy is feckin' gorgeous in his photos and in person, but this was a look. He said hello in a rushed kind of a way, breathless, excited, maybe with a touch of mania, and asked, do I want to go, because he has to go to meet a friend. Do I want to come with him? A bit baffled, I said, aren't we having coffee? He responds, yeah, but I already ate my scone. The man had ordered a plain scone with no drink. Is there anything more psychopathic? Had eaten it, I imagine, like how one eats an apple, and was now ready to leave. I think some of his manic energy rubbed off on me because I agreed to walk with him initially. What possessed me, I don't know. He was a babe. He told me his friend was in Hook and Ladder, which was just around the corner, and I adored the Hook and Ladder's brownies, so I went along. Who wouldn't? We started walking towards Hook and Ladder and chatting a bit. He seemed a bit fidgety, and now that I think about it, he might have had some sort of attention deficit disorder. Not to offend anybody who does. Just the way he was acting, he had this nervous energy, was going back and forth a bit, first saying his friend owned Hook and Ladder, and he'd get us drinks for free, and then backtracking, well, he actually just kind of works there. And I couldn't really get much of a word in to verify as he was tall and was striding, and I had to jog to keep up with him. 1 minute we're walking on the footpath, next thing I know he stops beside an illegally parked car. He opens the door for me, +1 for chivalry, and says, in you get. Hook and Ladder is like 50 metres away at this point, and here's the part where I can admit I'd probably win some sort of Darwin Award, and I brought most of my trauma upon myself. I rationalised it that perhaps his mate worked in the Hook and Ladder on the other side of town. Given that we've already had a cafe mix-up today, it's conceivable we might have another. So I get in the car. Don't ever get in the car. There was rubbish on the seat, which he swiped onto the floor to join the rubbish there. There was rubbish on the dash. There were no headrests. I looked around and there was an axe lying across the back seat. An axe. Don't worry about that, he said, pretty casually. I was chopping down a tree the other day. He laughed. You must think I'm going to murder you. Word for word. I realised the seatbelt on the passenger side was broken, though he'd already taken off, leaving town, going in the opposite direction of all the cafes. He was driving kind of fast and a bit jerky, so I asked him to slow the fuck down, and he smiled and then tapped the rear view mirror, where he had a handwritten note taped onto it that said, you already have 9 points, don't get any more or you're off the road. He laughed. Yeah, I know, I'm told I drive too fast. And then proceeded to run 3 red lights in a row. As if that was nothing, he took out his phone and started texting his mate while he was driving, veering into the wrong side of the road more than once, all the while rattling on about his friend that we're going to meet, who I'm now certain does not work in Hook and Ladder. At this stage I asked him very clearly, where are we going? I was afraid we were headed to that fabled second location, except I really didn't think that sort of thing would ever happen to me. He tells me we're going to my mate's house. His girlfriend broke up with him and he kind of needs me right now to support him. I'm a good friend like that, you know, and it might help if I bring you with me. Women are good at dealing with that sort of thing. What? Bizarre. Keep in mind, I've only been in this car about 5 minutes and he's committed multiple traffic offences, not least driving in what are essentially flip-flops, and in general is acting entirely unhinged. We finally stop at a stop sign. He stopped for that, but not for the traffic lights. And I tell him, you can just drop me off here and go support your friend. As my delayed self-preservation instinct had finally kicked in, and I just wanted to save myself now. My own car was parked back in town, so I had to walk 20 minutes back for it. He didn't seem fazed though, and offered to give me a lift back, to which I said firmly no. So he said, I'll meet you after then. I said, yup, and legged it, intending to unmatch as soon as I was at a safe distance. To finish, I'd run a few steps away when he wheeled the car back and again pulled up next to me with his window down. Says he, by the way, this is random, but you've got a nice kind voice. And then he promptly did another U-turn and sped off into the proverbial sunset. And that was that, the shortest, most perilous date I've ever had. P.S. He resembled a young Clint Eastwood, if that explains anything. Oh my god. What the fuck? The way she wrote that as well is absolutely savage. I enjoyed that thoroughly. Fair play to her though. Like, having 3 dates in a day. A date for breakfast, a date for lunch, and a date for dinner. Like, Jesus, the amount of fucking money you would spend. Well, I suppose, like, a lot of those lads are going to try and pay, I suppose, but fucking hell. And all the calories as well. I would be 20 stone if I was that. Sure, even as it is, sometimes I go on, like, well, the very odd time, like 2 or 3 dates a week, and that on top of a social life where you're already fucking drinking pints. It's just too many pints. It's too many calories. I couldn't cope. I couldn't cope with this and all the eating and no. Okay, story number 2. I got first-hand, second-hand and third-hand embarrassment for myself writing this. Honestly, buckle up because this is a novel and a roller coaster. 7 years ago, I was swiping through Tinder with my rose-tinted glasses on and I matched with this guy. We got talking and decided to go on a date that week. He lived 1.5 hours away from me, but I drove through anyway. He was a little bit sketchy about where to pick him up from. Eventually he said, wait at the shop around the corner from his lad pad, and I happily obliged. We went on the date. He wanted to go for food. We ended up driving to the coast for fish and chips, which was another 1 hour drive, but I was young, foolish and happy to waste my student loan on fuel and boys, apparently. To add insult to injury, I paid for the fish and chips. On the drive back, he told me he only had £10 to last him until payday, 2 weeks away. That should have been a red flag number 9 at that point. I dropped him off, all good, and drove home. We continued speaking, and now I can comfortably say he was love-bombing me. He invited me down to stay at his for the weekend. Again, being young and stupid, I thought this was so romantic. So Friday after uni, I head down again. He said, meet me at the shop and I'll direct you to my lad pad. So I arrive, he's standing outside. We pick up some snacks, etc. and get to the till. Obviously, there is no movement from his wallet, so I pay. We hop in the car and drive literally 250 metres down the road and he directs me into a caravan site. Confused, I ask where we are going, to which he responds, this is my lad pad. No judgment to anybody who lives in one, it just caught me by surprise. We get inside and there are 2 staffies ready to knock me over. Gorgeous but no prior warning, so again they caught me by surprise. The caravan itself is fine, livable but with some questionable decor from probably the 80s. The night is going good, he was all over me, 0 to 100 in the speed of light, but he was on his phone a lot messaging his sister. We decide to go out for a romantic walk by the river with the dogs, and conveniently we walk past his sister's house, so we have to pop in to introduce me. It's about 8:30 p.m. at this point. After being inside for all of 3 minutes, I clock the real reason we're here. She'd cooked dinner for him. He sits and eats it while I stand awkwardly in the kitchen. After he's stuffed his face, we walk back to his, cuddle on the couch and watch a film. We spend the next morning in bed, and when we get up it was a beautiful day, so I suggest we head to the beach 1 hour away with the dogs. He's over the moon with this plan and decides to invite his sister, her partner and their kid. We get there, they're following behind in their own car, and again after all of 3 minutes I understand why he invited her. As she whips out the picnic she's packed for them all. He picked away at that all day, but the guilt of taking lunch from a child meant I just sipped on my juice all day. Despite that, we have a lovely day on the beach and head home. When we get back, I devour the snacks we'd bought the day previously, as I'm ravenous at this point. I ask him what our dinner plans are and he said he's not that hungry and didn't want to go out. We chill on the couch for most of the night, then take the dogs for a walk before bed. Yep, you guessed it, we take the same route as last night and pass by his sisters, and yes, you guessed it, we pop in to say hello. After the beach, they'd opted to have a barbecue and there was some leftover bits waiting for him. After he stuffed his face with them, we headed home and straight to bed. It's Sunday now and we spend the morning in bed again. At 11 a.m. I suggest we go for lunch, just him and I, before I head back up the road. He agrees, hallelujah. Food and no family tag-alongs. Except this is where it all goes tits up. He suggests a place 20 minutes away and offers to drive my car so I can have a rest. He showed me his licence and proclaimed his work insurance covers him to drive any car. He's a mechanic. Also, he told me his own car was in the garage as it needed work done, hence why he didn't have it that weekend. Foolishly, I agree to let him drive my car. About 15 minutes into the drive, we're sitting at a junction and he pulls out in front of a camper van, and just like that my car's a write-off. The police arrive and he pulls me aside and begs me to tell the police that I was driving. Luckily, all common sense had returned at this point and I point blank refused. He was interviewed by police separately from me and he was charged. Strangely, I was also taken into the van. The 2 policemen couldn't have been any nicer, but unfortunately they delivered me some hard truths. He was disqualified from driving, did not have insurance, and he told them that I was the driver. Luckily they knew he was lying, as the couple from the camper van identified him as the driver. They then cautioned and charged me too, as I was the person at fault for allowing him to drive. The rest of the day was a blur. I remember getting out of the police van and his sister was there, shock. Him and her immediately smothered me and convinced me everything would be fine. I was now stranded 2 hours from home with no car. I ended up back at his again while we tried to figure out what to do. My wrecked car had been left at the roadside. He told me him and his mate were going out to recover my car back to their work, but the mate wanted £20 for fuel. Shockingly, I coughed up. So I'm left alone in the caravan for an hour and he returns, telling me my car is at his work and he'll get a proper look at it tomorrow, Monday. He also returned with weed and rolled himself a joint as he'd had a stressful day. I stayed that night as I had no option now being careless, and my cousin came and picked me up the next morning. Over the next few days something just didn't feel right. He was still love bombing and filling me with hope and promises, but my gut was churning. 7 days after the crash, I got a call from the police again asking why my car was still at the roadside, and if not collected within 24 hours they would impound it. It all made sense now. The £20 I gave him for fuel was for the drugs. He didn't recover my car to his garage at all. I immediately called him over and over again, but obviously he didn't answer. I decided to drive, borrowed my mum's car, down to confront him. The caravan was locked and no answer. I looked through the windows and it was completely empty. I went to his sister's. She seemed genuinely shocked to see me, and his dogs were there. I asked her where he was and she said, he's vanished. He abandoned the dogs a few days ago in the caravan park. Long and the short of it, he's dropped everything and left the country. His sister sat me down and told me everything. The whole time she was under the influence that I'd already knew it all. Everything he told me was a lie. He was actually unemployed, on the run from his previous life, facing jail time for drug-related crimes, hiding in his caravan with the dogs as protection, hadn't paid rent on the caravan ever and was basically squatting there and definitely didn't have a car. The worst is yet to come. So he vanished, my car was impounded and scrapped, the couple in the camper van claimed on my insurance, and while my insurance paid out, I was liable for all costs as I had let him drive unlicensed and uninsured, so I was hit with a 17k bill. Remember, I was a student at the time. I couldn't afford to pay it, so I was forced into monthly instalments. I ultimately had to drop out of my honours degree to work to afford to pay it off. The day in court came up and we were both due up on the same day. I was ready to throw hands the minute we got out of court, but you guessed it, he didn't show up. My solicitor was an absolute gem and pled my case, and with him not showing up it strengthened it further. Charges against me were dropped and a warrant was issued for his arrest. In the middle of the shit show that was now my life, it was a small win. I'm not done yet. A year later I had finally built up the courage to try and date again. I was back on Tinder and guess who I saw? I went straight to the police, who confirmed there was still a warrant out for his arrest. They took all the information from his Tinder profile and said they would try and track him down. I had a feeling that he'd swiped right on me, so after ensuring the police had all the information they needed, I swiped right too, and bam, it was a match. Needless to say, that night I sent a message as long as this story filled with abuse and obscenities, and I woke up in the morning with a lifetime ban from Tinder. Also annoyingly, it tipped him off and he had left the area again before the police could catch up with him. The last time I checked, which was during COVID, the warrant was still out for his arrest. If there's one thing I learned from this whole situation, it's that being naive is dangerous. It fucked up my whole life. I'm in my late 20s now and it's my biggest regret. I spent years paying off debt when I should have been out living my best life, travelling the world with my friends. Stay safe and sensible out there, guys and girls. Oh, stop. Like, this is absolutely outrageous. Like, I certainly won't judge you. I think I told you all before that over a year ago, I went on a few dates with a fella and basically I ended up loaning him €300 and he said he would give it back to me when he got paid, which was going to be in like 2 weeks. He got paid at the end of the month, he said. And he said he was being paid with commission, so he'd have loads of money and everything would be fine. And when I made this decision, I was very, very hungover. So like, when I'm hungover, like I'm shocking with being able to judge things. It's like I'm worse when I'm hungover than I am when I'm drunk. I have no brain cells in there at all. So I was just so stupid and needy. I was like, yeah, no problem. Of course I will give you the €300. I know you're good for it. Like, why? The only reason I was so happy giving it to him was because he had spent all of his money the night before on me, buying me double whiskies, and I don't even drink whiskey, and I was absolutely fucked drunk. So there must have been just some guilt there that this man had spent, it was multiple hours drinking. He had spent hundreds. So I was like, okay, yeah, this is probably my fault. Like, what the fuck? It wasn't my fucking fault. €300. Anyway. So I gave him the 300 and I sent him multiple messages over and over and over again, looking for the money back. Finally, I got the 200 after I sent him like an obscene message, basically saying he should be fucking ashamed of himself. And I got the 200. He was like, yeah, I'm sorry, I'll give you the €100. I called him a Tinder swindler as well. He was like, yeah, I'll give you the €100 next month. And I'm going to give you something extra as well as an apology. And I was like, okay, cool. Next month came, nothing. I really, really didn't want to text him again. And I think I just left it and I wrote it off in my head as like a lesson learned. But then, a few months later, I decided to just send him a Revolut request for €100. And I got it. And then I blocked him on absolutely everything. And who the fuck is after adding me on Facebook 2 days ago? Like, could you imagine the McCree in my veil when I saw his fucking name pop up on my phone? Like, I have him blocked on WhatsApp, Instagram. That's the only place we were talking. And I obviously had deleted him on Tinder a million years ago. But Facebook, I didn't even think he knew my surname. There he is now. Like, and I sent it into the group chat then. The girls are like, oh, he's probably looking for another loan. For fuck's sake. Like, what does he want? Oh, whatever. They always fucking come back. Okay, and this, I'm going to give you one more story before we go on to the Agony Orange query. So let's go. So this is embarrassingly a recent story. I'd met this guy on Hinge a while ago. I was a fresher. He was a fourth year, I think. He wasn't very attractive, but he seemed really funny and we got along, so I gave him a chance. From the offset, his banter over message was quite mean, but I took it as a joke and I thought it was funny. I thought he clearly liked me to be messaging me. Anyway, over Halloween we're both coming back from a night out and realised we're both in the city centre, so messaged to meet up and go back to his. Stupid, I'm aware. I meet him and from the offset we're laughing and joking. It's about a 20-minute walk, so the whole time we chat. I noticed, however, that all of his jokes seem to be directed at me and some of them are just a bit harsh. He was acting exactly the same as he was on message, but in person I started to realise his jokes were actually just a bit nasty. But I was really, really drunk at this point and I didn't really think about it too much. We end up getting to his and we're just chilling, lying in his bed for a bit. While we chat, he proceeds to put his hand on my stomach and tell me, fuck me, you've got fat since getting to uni, haven't you? Bear in mind I'm a size 6 and I'd been drinking all night and I had a takeaway. Obviously I was going to be bloated. I told him to fuck off again, but I think it's a joke, stupidly. He also turns to me and tells me, Jesus, your nose is massive. I got up to have a nosy around his room and just make conversation while I do. When I come back to get in bed, somehow we end up like play fighting. All of a sudden his play fighting just seems to get really rough and he starts hitting me really hard. It got to a point where I wasn't even play fighting back. He was actually just whacking me really hard over and over again for no reason. We end up doing stuff together anyway, which I regret. I was somehow even more drunk now, and he couldn't get hard, which made it a little awkward. He decides he wants to facilitate me instead, which I was fine with until he starts begging me to sit on his face. I tell him I'm really not comfortable doing it, multiple times, but when I say he was begging, I mean he must have said it about 20 times in a baby voice. It ends up happening and then things end and we go back to chilling again. I asked him to borrow a shirt to sleep in. I'm in a bloody Halloween costume and he tells me to fuck off, telling me he's not wasting clothes on me. He also tells me he'll get me an Uber in the morning. We start going to sleep when he starts to cuddle me in a really full-on way. I did not want to cuddle this man. I'd started to sober up and realise what a complete knob this guy was. He was basically straddling me now and he tells me, this is what I do. I don't turn the heating on, I just invite girls round for warmth. I was beyond weirded out by this guy, so I just try my best to go sleep and then I can be on my way. In the morning he just continues to be rude. It wasn't the alcohol talking. When I ask for some clothes to borrow to go back in, he tells me to fuck off. He's just continually being rude to me and making comments. He tells me, can you go home now? Then when I bring up the Uber home, he tells me there's no way he's getting me an Uber, and he was lying. Bear in mind this guy's on 40k a year and I'm a skint student. I realise he's not joking. He refuses to give me the Wi-Fi for this, telling me to fuck off. He just wants me to leave and find it myself in the house, which I end up having to. I realise I don't even have the app, so I start downloading it. The entire time, about 10 minutes, he shouts in my face telling me to fuck off. He wants me to leave so he can go about his day. At this point, I'm hungover and so overwhelmed and I feel like I might cry. I tell him over and over I'm trying to leave as hard as I can. The app just won't download. He ignores this and carries on just hurling abuse at me. The Uber finally comes, and when I tell you I leg it out of his house and not even saying goodbye, I call my friend to tell her it was so bad the Uber driver overheard and asked if I wanted him to call the police. I go straight to sleep when I get home, and it's not until I speak to my flatmates and realise how bruised I am that I realised how fucked up it was. When I look back at the messages before we met too, I realised how none of them were sarcastic jokes, and this man genuinely was talking to me like he hated me. He texts me later on that evening saying we had a lovely time, and I tell him to leave me alone. He says I'm just being dramatic and the hitting was just love taps. Then he also suggests he was really nice, even trying to say he offered me pancakes in the morning. And finally, the icing on the cake, he tells me as soon as I left he went out for a breakfast date. I blocked him. Anyway, I knew he was already banned off Tinder, so I ended up submitting a report to Hinge and he's been banned. Hopefully he never acts the same way towards another girl. You can absolutely guarantee that he is flat out acting that way to any girl. That will take it, definitely. What a fucking oddball. He needs a good fucking boot. So did I tell you that I am back on the apps? I downloaded Hinge about a week ago and I downloaded Tinder about 36 hours ago, baby. And yeah, it's going alright. Like, I have a date on Friday. We're going to the pub. My last date was with a fella from TikTok. And so I'm actually off the apps 2.5 months. And then my last date was with a fella from TikTok. So my last actual app date was about 2.5 months ago. I'm excited. This man, he's nice. He's 29. He lives very close to me, actually, and he seems to be very ambitious. He has a good job. The only thing is that he lives with his family. Now, I have been living out since I was 17 when I left to go to college. So when I hear that, like he only moved out for 1 year when he travelled abroad and then he's back home. So like, he's nearly 30. I just feel like he's been mammied a lot of his life, and I wonder what kind of things he's able to do for himself if you've been under, a family roof for that long. Yeah, obviously I'm getting ahead of myself here, but you'd be thinking for the future. If you were going over to chill with them in their house, you'd be chilling in the family home. That just is just bizarre. I'm sure I know the rental crisis and everything, like, don't be talking to me about that. I'm just saying, it just makes me awkward. But sure, look, who knows? Maybe he's, maybe he does everything for himself in the family home. But sure, I fucking doubt it, What else has happened with me? Yeah, so I told you I downloaded this app called Field, which is for people with extra wants. And anyway, I only lasted a few days on that. It wasn't for me, but I did meet this fella who was 6'8" on it. Really good looking. Like, we got along like a house on fire. And yeah, the conversation dwindled. He fell asleep one night and then he texted me the next day. But when he texted me the next day, it was like he didn't want to talk to me. So I just said, have a good day. And lo and behold, then, that was at the start of July. And then at the end of July, he texts me. So he said, and he texted me at 1:15 in the morning. Hello, waving hand emoji. Sorry about the lack of contact. So I didn't want to overload about my dad, but he isn't well at all, unfortunately, and it's been a crazy few weeks. Let's meet up this coming week in Dublin if you're free. And sorry again, I totally understand if you think I'm a flake and you don't want to meet me. And then I replied and said, 1:15, and then his name, sweaty emoji. And he said, I know, sorry, I couldn't sleep and I was thinking. In fairness, I was still texting him at this point where he bopped in with that message. I said, sorry to hear about your dad, tough going, I hope things look up for him. I think the time has come and gone, I'm afraid. I might bump into you some night, who knows, it won't be on Dawson Street. Anyway, we'd already had a conversation about that. Dawson Street is not for me, nor are the people who frequent Dawson Street. He said, no problem at all, totally understand. I hope you managed to get rid of your lodger. Yeah, hopefully I might bump into you at some stage. Yeah, I just left it at that. He had touched upon the fact that his dad was unwell. But, like, I'm sorry for him. But, like, his dad was unwell then, when we started talking. And then 3 weeks later, the dad was still unwell, but he was able to see me then. Like, I don't really understand what has changed. And I just feel like there was something else and he's just using the dad as an excuse. And also that he was living in the West. He's from the West, and that's where his dad was. And the day that he stopped conversation with me or was dwindling was when he had gotten back to Dublin. So really, that should have been the ultimate time to be talking to me, because he wasn't over there with his dad at that point. Anyway, I just think no second chances. Fuck them. Fuck them. You get one chance. Like, if I'm interested in somebody, I will, treat them with respect, and I will make conversation, and I will try to my best to be as timely as possible. But, I certainly won't fucking disappear on someone for 3 weeks and pop back up. I wouldn't do that if I was interested. I just think, let's keep it simple, Okay, and this is the Agony Orange question that I got in during the week. So she goes, okay, so I've gotten myself into a mess and I don't know how to get out. Me and this guy met on a night out, one thing led to another, etc. He's 10 years older than me, and he's admitted to me that he's getting married in a month but wants to have an affair with me. I honestly didn't believe him, but he did text me a few days later after the night to meet him. Side note, he first told me him and his wife were swingers. Didn't believe that for a second. I asked if he was going to tell her about me, and he said no, because I'm different. At first I didn't feel guilty because I'm not the one getting married. I'm single and I'm possibly settling because I'm losing hope that there's any good men left. But now I'm riddled with guilt, worried that we will get caught and that my family and friends etc. will find out. I feel like a bad person. I honestly don't know what to do. Should I tell him how I feel? Is he taking advantage of me? So I'll tell you what I replied to her. I said, oh Jesus, there's a lot in that. He's a dirty bastard and you should stay well away from him. Even the fact that you're not able to believe the shit he tells you, i.e. the swingers thing, it should be enough for you. If he's willing to do this on his wife, the woman he apparently loves, he will do worse to you. If you're so different, why isn't he leaving her for you? He's filling you with shit and you need to get a grip. There's loads of good men out there. I'm finding it hard to find my person, but I did find good men. This fella is literally bottom of the barrel, and if you threw a stone you'd find 10 men better than him. Sack him off and don't let him make a tit of you. He's having his cake and eating it, happy family life with his wife and his exciting bit on the side with you. If I knowingly got involved with a married man and my family and friends found out, I'd be mortified and I wouldn't leave the house again. End it now before it goes any further and shit comes out. And she said, do you think I should just block him or tell him? Does he even deserve an explanation? And then I said, I wouldn't be killing yourself writing him a letter explaining. He will definitely know why you're doing it, and to be honest, he deserves fuck all explanation. Either block him straight out on everything or write something small like, I'm not comfortable being part of this anymore, don't contact me again, and block him before he can reply then, whichever you prefer. And she said, great, thanks so much for your help. I said, no problemo, best of luck. Here, like, what the fuck? Jesus, I don't know. Like I understand you can like totally feel like there is no hope and like, fuck it, maybe I'll give this fella a go even though he's already with somebody, but like, don't lower yourself. There is literally enough single men out there without you going for somebody who's getting married. Like, what a scummy bastard. And if you for a second think that you're any different, like you're just not. You're just not any different. Men, like, oh, I don't know, men will sell you the fucking world. They will sell you the world. That's the end of the podcast there now. I hope you enjoyed the stories. My dog was sitting here beside me the entire time, snoring her fucking head off. So I'm going to have some job trying to edit that out. Yeah, so Friday, I have the date. I will let you know how it goes. Fingers crossed for me. Because I keep getting these things as presents, right? I have a €150 restaurant voucher there to use. I have a voucher for a hotel. And I'm just today after getting another voucher for a hotel. And so it's 2 hotels and one like nice restaurant €150 food voucher thing. And I'd be thinking like, God, that would be lovely to bring a fella to. Me and a fella going out, lovely and fucking fancy dinner, whatever, night in a hotel. It's fucking penthouse suite, one of them. In the end, I'm just going to bring them one of the girls. Because I have nobody to bring. Like, I can't even get into a situationship. I don't even know where all of you are finding them to be like so fucked up in the head over them, because I can't even get into them. I would happily take a situationship right now just so I could have a cute weekend away. But whatever. Like, I have the girls, you know, love you girls. But you know, sometimes you just like a fella. You would just like a fella. So coming up over the next couple of podcasts, we have, as I said, James Gardner. If you want to look him up yourself, he's on TikTok as Jamesy Cotter, JamesYCottar. He's absolutely gas. You'll get a good laugh from him. And yeah, the girls from Daters Gonna Date podcast. So look them up on TikTok or Instagram, Daters Gonna Date. And also, yeah, on Spotify, check out their podcast, they're gas. So me and actually one of the girls from Daters Gonna Date have a singles night coming up over the next few weeks that we're going to go to. And she's going to come on the pod. We'll have a chat about that. I'm nervous. God, has anybody any stories about fucking singles nights for me? Will you let me know? Write to me on Instagram or send me an email. thedatingorange@gmail.com. Okay, thank you, love you, and I'll see you next time. Bye.